Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining Love is Patient. I am so glad to have you with me this morning. I want to talk briefly about preparing for your next season. Last week, we talked about being thankful for whatever season you're in. Whatever season is upcoming, be thankful for that. Today, we're going to look and explore about our next season. What steps should we take? What moves should we make in this next season? The Bible declares in Ecclesiastes 3, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the sun. That's Ecclesiastes 3, and we understand and know that. But when we get down to it and consider where we are, we have to consider exactly how the season has begun, how the season is ending, and how we're transforming ourselves and transitioning through these times. Consider the following examples. Was in a certain situation, and you may identify with this. My four children were in the house. I even had two grandchildren in the house. We were a house of eight. When that season ended, we were down to, I think, just two kids in the house. And then finally, one of those left. We were there with Shaka about 6 months. I had a chance to be with my middle son for 6 months, just me, him, and my husband. So that was a very different time. But that season of having a full house was coming to an end. All right, and now we are empty nesters. We have everyone is out of the house, and my youngest daughter went to boarding school. So this season basically ended prior to when I thought it was going to end. So that is very devastating, considering when a season begins and then when a season is ending. Consider singleness. You are single for all of your life. Of course, a lot of us want to be married and want to be with somebody, or we may think that we are in a season where we actually need a spouse, need to be with somebody. However, the situation presents itself, when singleness ends, it's exciting because a new season of marriage is beginning. So consider that as a time where you really have to make some changes in whatever state that you're in. Consider school. Graduating from high school is it's an exciting thing. And then you go off to college or trading school or start another program, and then that's you become a freshman all over again. You have to get used to whatever program you're in, and get used to that and try to excel the best way you can. And then after that, you may consider going on to grad school or another program, or continuing on that same track but in another on another level. So all of these different seasons, you have to consider the beginning and the end. So what's your next move? What season are you in? And considering what we talked about last week, are you looking ahead? Are you looking ahead as to what is going to happen with you? What's going to happen in your love relationship? We have to think about and consider our next moves. What should you do now? How can this transition be made to be smooth? And some people say flawless. I don't know if it can actually be flawless, but it could be close to flawless. If you think about it, sit down with your spouse, sit down with that your loved one or your love interest, and kind of plan it all out. See where you're going, see where the other person is headed. And you have to see how these plans complement each other, or sometimes they collide. And then you can take that opportunity to see how you can smooth things out. Transition seasons, if you look at the seasons, you never go from a really hot summer experience into the dead of cold. It's always a transition season. That's why fall is so important. That's why spring is so important. And as I say time and time again, the way it is in the natural is also how it is in your love relationships. That transition time is so very important. I'm thinking about even the election, the most recent presidential election. Whenever things settle out, there'll be a transition team that comes in. And we're praying even now that that can be run smoothly, but that transition team comes in and they prepare the new president for what's to come, and then they try to prepare the exit of the current president. So this is a transition time where the staff is changing, or maybe they'll keep somebody from the old staff. We don't know. In this situation, there'll probably be a lot of new staff members coming in. So it's a whole transition. It's a whole time where we understand that one season has ended and another season has begun. Consider child development. You have a baby, consider a baby in maybe about 3 months old. That baby does not transfer into a toddler overnight. There is a transition season. You have a school age elementary school child, and that child, you'll watch the child go through transitions, as you don't just have a teenager overnight. There are a lot of transition moments and moments of development that the parents help in, that the teachers help in, that the village helps in to transition that child into its adolescent years. Very important formative years, and before you know it, not without transition though, that child will go into adulthood. So when you consider these transitions in our natural world, you have to consider those same types of processes in your love relationships. It calls for so much communication. It calls for so much patience. You have to patiently endure. And like last week we talked about, not everybody's opinion is 100% right. So you have to have some empathy. You have to put yourself in the other person's place while you're transitioning and talking about these transitions. I have an example to share about things that you need in certain seasons and things that you do not need in that season. Every season, I would gather my children together once they got of age, and we would prepare for the next season. Perhaps you have the same type of system. Say we're going from summer into winter. We're packing up at the end of the summer season. We're packing up all of our summer clothes, everything that we cannot carry into the next season. And then we're going to actually unpack all of our winter clothes that we may need, that we may have stored away, that we are able to use in that next season of winter. So we're packing up all our shorts, all our halters, all of our short sleeve shirts, and then we're bringing out our coats, and we're bringing out the winter leggings, and we're bringing out the sweaters and the hooded vests and all of these things that we're going to need for our present season. So even in that activity, you can think of some things in your love relationship that when you're transitioning into another season, there are some things that you're going to have to pack up. There are some things that you're going to have to get rid of, some old habits, some old thoughts as you're moving into your new season. Pack it up, get rid of it. You don't need it for this season. So consider that. Some stuff just cannot follow you into this next season. Consider it. Consider that even as you would pack up your summer things to get ready for the winter, pack up and get rid of some things that you do not need for your next season. What would you look like wearing your shorts and it's 50 some degrees outside, or maybe colder, maybe like 30 or 40 degrees outside? What do you look like in shorts and a sleeveless shirt? No, you want to wear maybe some longer pants so that you're not cold. You want to wear your sweater. You want to style it up and do some things so that you are appropriately dressed. By the same token, you want to unpack some things maybe that you have stored up for this particular season. As you're preparing to go into this season, you may have some things in store. So you are unpacking the seasonal items. All right. In your love relationship, you might consider developing a new attitude for this next season. You and your spouse are looking to have a family. So you're not going to be able to do all of the things that you just used to do together as you were alone, just you and your spouse were alone, but you have a family now. So you're going to plan some activities that involve children, that involve younger people. There's some really fun things that you can do out there. So developing a new attitude about your new season, this new place that you're in. If you consider even the sorting process that's involved with packing, consider some items that you don't want to wear or have no use for in the next year. And with that idea, you can also consider, if I had a chance to do something over again. Think about your relationship. If you had a chance to do something again, say you made a mistake, say it was a bad choice that you make, consider if you had that chance to do it again, what would you do differently? So as you are packing up some things and sorting out some things for your next season, consider that. If I had a chance, if this opportunity presented itself again, what would I do differently? How would I handle that situation differently? And you never know. You just never know, because sometimes things move in cycles. And that opportunity may present itself one more time. You got to be ready for it. So in that packing and unpacking process, make sure that you consider and reflect on some of the things that you may want to consider doing a different way if the opportunity presents itself again. Another thing that we should think about is in the sorting process, your anticipated growth in the sorting process. As I was explaining to my children, you ought to pack up some things that you know that you can wear in your next season. Some things are bigger. You kind of anticipate some growth in children depending on the age they're in, and you can wear some of these items, especially like coats and sweaters and things of that sort. You can wear these items again the next year, and you have to consider the anticipated growth of a child. Just like you would do that, you can consider your anticipated growth. Next year, I plan to be in in another mindset, because I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to work on my attitude. I'm going to develop myself in certain areas so that me and my spouse or me and my loved one can actually grow in my relationship. So there's some things that you're not going to need. And then there are some things that you are going to develop so that you have more patience, so that you have you're operating in a state of kindness, operating with showing more love to your spouse or to your loved one. You're keeping in mind and you're being empathetic about some things. These are the things that you want to take with you to, and you're anticipating that you're going to develop in these areas so that in this next season, you will be able to anticipate your growth and plan accordingly. So I hope that you will consider these few little tips and considerations, and just to reflect on your next season. Consider the activity of packing up some things that you're not going to need. And then consider that perhaps you've stored some things up that you are going to need for your next season. All right, let's plan ahead. Let's talk to our loved one. Let's sit down and have a conversation about those plans that we have. What's your next move in your next season, and how are you going to plan for it? Thank you for joining me. And every Saturday we come on and we just talk about just a couple things that may just help you in your love relationship. Remember to wait for love. Wait for love. That's the patient part of being in a love relationship. Love is patient, and sometimes you just have to wait for love. We'll see you next week.